What do you do when you go through a breakup or when you lose other significant relationships in your life? What do you turn to when your life feels really turbulent? When today's guests, Quentin, found themselves in a chapter with a lot of endings, they turned to music. They funneled their resentment, anger, and grief into a fantastic, sparkly, deep album called Tom Girl, which I guarantee you will be dancing to this summer. It's phenomenal. Today's guest shares about the intimate experience of alchemizing intense emotions into art, their relationship as a queer artist to their masculine and feminine energy, and creating harmony between these two as a part of their creative process. They discuss how their mom nurtured their creativity, what it has been like to navigate financial strain, and the importance of grit and absolute commitment to your art. You may have come across Quentin before, whether on the stage of the ACL Music Festival, on the cover of the Austin Chronicle, or as a 2026 South by Southwest artist. But in today's interview, Quentin offers us wisdom on the emotional experience, motivates us to keep going on your creative projects, and reminds us of the power of true, authentic expression. I'm so excited for you to listen. Make sure to follow along on Instagram and TikTok at The Artist Rendezvous. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Leave a review and send this episode to someone who will enjoy it. My name is Samantha Fotenhauer. This is The Artist Rendezvous. Quentin, welcome to The Artist Rendezvous. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so glad to be here. This is amazing.
Oh, this is going to be a great conversation. So I first want to hear about your new album.
Yes, I've been working on this project for almost 3 years. And it has been such a labor of love and a journey that kind of chronicled my grief process through actually a multitude of things. And most importantly, also, it is an homage to my 20s. And I hope that people that are in their 20s, I hope everybody loves this album, but specifically, I think people between the age of 18 and 29. Like I think that I wrote this in honor of the 20s and like what it was for me and what it felt like and my journey and my experience and the music that I love, the music that inspired me, and finding a way to kind of condense it into 9 songs. Yeah.
And I'm so excited for people listening to get the chance to listen to it. It'll come out a little bit after when this episode, but depending on when you're listening, maybe it'll be out.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to listen to it, and I know how amazing it is, how well produced, how it has this incredible balance of this like fizzy, dancey, like gotta get out, but then this like depth and poetry and like fierceness to it.
Yeah.
What were some of the experiences that you had? You mentioned grief and that this also is just this homage to your 20s. What was going on?
I was exiting a part of my life at the beginning of when I was writing this album that I didn't even know I was exiting yet. Like I started this album, in a relationship in a very different part of my life and in a band and when I was writing it, my initial plan was to kind of just kind of go do a little me thing real quick. I was in this, big band and doing all this stuff. And I was just like, I just kind of want to go. I got invited to Sonic Ranch and I was just like, I kind of just want to go mess around. And like my whole vibe was to do like this kind of Cleo soul album. I wanted to kind of tap into my femininity and my motherness and all those things. And then I got there And, it's on in El Paso, it's on very sacred Native American territory and land. And all of a sudden, it's just kind of like everything started coming up, and I just started realizing, oh, I'm angry. I'm really angry. And I didn't know that I was until I was in this space that forced me to look at me. And then I just kind of came back from that experience, kept going with my band, kept going with my relationship, with many other things. And then once those things ended, it was kind of all that remained was still this music and this work. And so I kind of continued to go with it and journey with it. And it was like becoming this this kind of vehicle for me to process and to digest what was happening in my life and my reality, which I do a lot. I only really know how to process through art. And so it just kind of became this uh it was the kind of the chicken before the egg kind of thing where I had no idea that I was saying goodbye to something. But then once I realized that that's what I was doing, it just kind of like became deeper and deeper, and then I just felt like this more and more urgency to be like, no, this is really special and this is important, and I need to take care of this.
Yeah, and steward this.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something that you said in there around you had started it when these other things in your life were still going. You talked about endings. So this is a solo project before you were in a band and before you were in a romantic relationship. And this album speaks to some of those experiences.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is something that I've heard other artists talk about, and I think it's really interesting where when they started this significant creative project, they didn't realize fully where it was going or what it would speak to. And then in the creation of it, ended up mirroring parts of their lives or be the support system that they needed to process a really big experience in their life. And it's almost like there's an intelligence in the creativity, that it's pulling you forward for a reason, that it knows that there's going to be something to express and digest.
100%. It's really spooky, ooky, kooky. Like, it really is a lot of the time. Like, especially, that first year that I went to Sonic Ranch,
And what is Sonic Ranch?
It's okay, so it's a recording studio, but that's such a like not giving it enough credit for what it is. It's a land that this incredible musician named Tony has developed that is lots of acres and it's different studios and it's all earthy and it's like less than a mile from the border. And so you're just in this complete isolated desert, and you're just it's mythical, it's special, it's really beautiful. Fiona Apple did Fetch the Bolt Cutters there. Little Yachty did his, weird trippy album. Daniel Johnson, Nirvana, there. Blitz, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs album was done in the Adobe studio, and so it was like it, and you feel it. You feel that presence. But honestly, outside of those artists, which are incredible and have scored my life, like, it's the actual space itself. You go in there, you go onto that land, and you are forced to be the most authentic version of yourself. I don't know how else to describe it. And there's really no other space that I've personally been in yet that provokes that as well as that place does. And so we could do a whole podcast just on that. But yeah, it was kind of this wonderful space that I didn't like. Even now, a lot of those songs that I did the first year did not make the album. But it created the foundation for the album. But when I listened to those songs, I was talking about something very candidly and very honestly that I don't think I was consciously accepting yet. And so to me, sometimes I think music, it just taps into the subconscious. And I think the subconscious is a lot more intuitive than we give her credit for. And also a lot more like kind of can see the future than we can give our intuition credit for.
Yes.
If that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you talked, you said earlier, I don't know how to heal and process without creating art. Could you tell me more about that? Like what are you doing that is allowing you to process or heal? Like what is the actual act?
In what sense?
Is it the singing? Is it the writing? Is it the revisiting it again and again? Is it the reflection of it? Is it just like allowing yourself to be so in the emotion of it and then that's where something's birthed from? Like
It's kind of all of those
all
things.
of it.
I hate when
Okay.
people say that,
No, that's
but
great.
it's true.
Yeah.
Like it's all of it. So I've said like I sometimes the way I write a song is it's like the last thing I can do before I just kind of fall. You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm pushed up against a wall and then that's when the song comes, and almost all of these songs, very specifically this album is definitely that. Like all of them came in this place of just like it's either I do this or I do something negative, whatever that may be. You know what I mean? Like, or I retaliate, or I pick up the phone. Like, it's either I like get this down in like a healthy, safe way,
Yeah.
or I do it in an unhealthy, unsafe way.
It's almost like
Yeah.
you can create or you can destroy.
100%. You can create or you can destroy. That's an incredible way to look at it.
And both of them are allowing you to move that emotion, that energy, and the anger and the grief and all of that. But one of them feeds you, and the other one probably is going to cause a lot of insecurities and challenges and logistical problems and like drama.
And I think that's like just such a. It's so difficult to. I don't want to say to do the right thing. That's not what. It's just difficult to process. I think, especially in this world that we live in, it's difficult to process. It's difficult to sit in something and sit in an emotion. And I think that I authentically allowed myself to do that, and I didn't judge myself. And I think that that's why it came out the way that it did, because I didn't judge it. And it is definitely the first project in my life where I'm terrified for people, specific people in specific places and things to hear it, because I was honest, and I was like, this is my experience and this is how I felt, and also, I maybe this is a little early to say this, but I don't put anything out until I'm done processing it. And so this current version of myself has completely moved on.
Yes.
From every single aspect of this. I am so at peace and so happy in my life right now. I have so much joy. I have things and people that I love. I am so content. But now it's time to kind of protect that girl, that version of me that needed this version of me. That's what this album is. It's kind of like this full circle moment, so that when you see me performing it, you're watching the Leo girl, protect this little Capricorn, you know what I mean, who was going through it and honestly and authentically did not deserve it, and hopefully then being able to help other people that are still in that space,
And now we're going to come back to that Leo to Capricorn piece. That's important. But
I jumped.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
But before we do, just to help people understand, because they won't have heard the album probably yet by the time they listen to this, and they don't know what was going on in your life. So what were some of the emotions or just experiences that maybe other people listening have felt that you were feeling, that you were alchemizing?
So many. All of them. I think every emotion you could find. Anger is kind of the first word. The second word is resentment, which I wrote a whole song, that's called Resentment, and allowing myself to resent, which was kind of difficult for me, but did. Loss, love, the fact that I'm such a mother and it's so difficult for me to just not love. Like, it takes everything in me to create a boundary. I'm still not doing that great. I mean, I am, but I'm also not. And so I maybe am in the physical sense, but not in the emotional sense.
Yes.
And so a lot of, and like I said, I kind of entered this being like, it's going to be my mother album and like this Cleo Soul, like.
And who's Cleo? What's Cleo Soul?
Cleo Soul, she's this incredible, just completely dropped into motherhood, woman. And there's also this band called Salt that she's a part of that is just like the most beautiful vibe. I don't know how to describe it. You would love it.
I'll look it up and I'll link in the show notes.
Please, yes, because everyone should be listening. And so that was kind of, like I said, that was where my intention started. So once I started lashing out, honestly, it was so unexpected. I wasn't expecting to be so angry. But then you kind of start, it's almost like once you allow yourself to kind of be in that space of anger, you start actually finding all the love, like.
Tell me more about that.
Because once you kind of release this dam of emotion that was kind of at the forefront, the stuff the gunk that was like at the front of it was anger, just betrayal, deceit, but once you work through those, you start getting to accountability and, and also being like, well, I was there too. You know what I mean? And you start getting to that place. And then what that actually ends up like bringing you back to is love. And that was kind of the journey. And as you kind of go through the album, the second to the last song is called Don't Wait on Me. And to me, it's kind of my lament of being like, I know I just yelled a lot, but hey, we're good. And I'll see you in the next one. You know what I mean? It's not going to be this one. That door is closed. But I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.
And then almost turning the Turnover, which also was a huge band in reference to this album, Turnover. Everyone, please link Turnover.
I will.
But cutting my fingers off. But, and then, so yeah, the whole album is really going from like, actually kind of starts with love and then goes through anger, deceit, betrayal, resentment, and then kind of comes back to love at the end.
Yes.
And then you kind of get Daddy's Little Girl, which is kind of this,
love that one.
To me, it's like the album ends at Don't Wait on Me. And then there's Daddy. And Daddy to me is just kind of, we could get into that later, but like it's just, it's a journey,
Journey.
like grief is a journey. I'm still grieving it. Even though I'm good, even though I'm moved on, even though I am still actively grieving, daily. And
I relate to that. Grief I've experienced for things that I'm at peace with. I accept. I'm glad that they went the way that they did, and grief coexists. And what you're saying is so beautiful, and it's so important that the only way to love, which I think is how a lot of people want to feel in their life and towards people that they once loved, that they had conflict with or that exited their lives or situations, and they want to be at a place of peace and love and acceptance. And I think a lot of people, I do this, try to jump there, bypass everything else to get there. But the only actual way to get there is to go through, because the only way out is through. So it's to go through the anger, it's to go through the grief, the guilt, the resentment, whatever the emotion is, even gnarly, ugly ones, even ones where you don't want to be having that emotion or you're embarrassed or you have shame around it. But exactly like you said, there's this quote I read recently that really struck me about resentment, that we only have resentment to the degree that we haven't accepted we haven't taken accountability for our personal power in the situation. Because when we're in full when we're fully owning our personal power, we can afford to be very generous. Boundaried, maybe, I'm not going to talk to you. But resentment often lies in the places where we have undigested anger and we have undigested anything, any emotion. And then in the digestion of that and the acknowledging, like, this is how the situation made me feel, and that's valid. Then you get to the other side, which is, okay, but how did I contribute and how can I learn from that? And how can I own this so I don't have to do this again? That's 100%. A great part about personal power, is like, we don't have to do this again when we can see our role in it versus when we're seeing that this just happened to me. The only way to get there is through that journey. And I think what's so beautiful about what you say, and that I think is such a gift, is that you use art to get through that journey.
100%.
And it's like you have no other way to.
I do not have any other way to. This is all that I have. This is it.
So who did you become in the process of going through these emotions, writing all this music, navigating just the real life? I think I'll sum it up as endings. Sounded like a lot of endings and loss of all different sorts of relationships and situations. Who did you become in that process?
Yeah, I keep saying that I feel like I came into this album crawling, and I got out of this album in a full strut, of really understanding, what it is, because I was watching something last night that reminded me of this. The depth of my capability to love is so unbelievable. Like, I don't have a lot of limits to my love, you know? And I think that that's something that I also took away, is just how capable I am of love and to allow myself to be afraid again, of to continue to be open to loss, because I survived it, and once you learn that you can survive, you start getting like, okay, well, I can handle this. And I think, it can go two ways. Some people can start kind of going more in, and some people can start going more out. And I felt like that's what it did for me. Like, finding love again has been, I think, easier for me because of what I went through. And some people, it would become harder. But I have found that it made me realize what I bring to the table, the power that I have.
And if you bring that much love and that is your gift and that's your superpower, then what a tragedy it would be to close that off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that it's my job. It's my job to learn how to not to do that. And
how do you not do that? What have you learned?
by having good boundaries, by respecting your boundaries. You cannot love if you do not have boundaries.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes those things seem like the opposite. But at least for me, coming from the way that my childhood and my upbringing, love, all that I've seen is that love is this fight. And love is this challenge and this journey and this uphill battle. And you've got to go through a lot of shit, and it's got to be, it's like, just almost, it's death or love. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it felt like, seeing so much betrayal growing up, seeing so much kind of sweeping under the rug, all these different things. That's what I started accumulating. And then ultimately what I started replicating.
That's how it works.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
And
just to clarify for people who are unfamiliar with that, we replicate the patterns that we were raised in until we decide we want to shift them. If we do want to shift them, some of them are like, great, let's keep them.
Yeah.
But usually we have at least one or a few that are not what is healthiest for us as adults. And so until we acknowledge that and take that power, personal power, we will continue to play them out.
100%.
Yes.
And I learned how to kind of unravel that and be like, love, it's very crazy for me to say, but love doesn't have to be difficult. And that was a really crazy discovery for me now in my life.
Beautiful.
Experiencing a love right now that just feels so real and still complicated, but authentic. And it's just learning that and unlearning and learning everything that I've learned about myself is just that keep your boundaries, say no. Say no. Or say yes, but mean it.
Yes.
Mean the yes.
Because if you're not doing what you actually want, then usually it's not fully coming out of love. It's coming out of something else. It's coming out of a wound, of a fear they're going to leave, of a rejection, trying to neutralize the situation, keep yourself safe, whatever it is. And then you can't trust yourself. No. And you're not actually being loving to yourself. And so the boundaries allow you to be loving and give freely, because it's knowing I'm not going to give so much that it's harming.
Yeah.
So this is what I do to keep myself safe. And then within this parameter, I can go at it.
100%.
Yes.
And I was just such a people pleaser. And I was I just want my family, and I want to be a mom, and I want the community, and I just want whatever I can, I'll just take it. I'll take it. And what I just started learning is I was just kind of doing a disservice to myself and to everybody else, because I was detaching. I was starting to go away in my brain.
Yes.
Because I felt unsafe.
Yes.
Because everything, all the foundation there was no foundation.
Yes.
And so I was just, I have Aquarius in 4 placements. I'm an Aquarius stellium. So I just started floating away. From that earth, from my Capricorn.
Relate.
I just started floating because I just didn't feel like I could trust it or anything or anyone. And I never want to feel that way again.
How I would describe this is you really expanded your emotional health. You learned how to navigate or identify how you're feeling, how to create structures and boundaries and lifestyle that supported that in relationships. And you learned how to really love and take care of yourself.
Yes.
How was this good for your art? How has this actually helped and supported your creativity, if it has?
In more ways than I thought. I always thought that if I was doing good, in my relationship and all these things, I don't know, I thought that maybe it would slow me down, or that, for the longest time I was like, I don't want to be in a relationship. I did that. I don't want any of that. But then, finding a great person, finding great people.
And you're in a relationship now.
I am, yeah.
Yes. A different one than before.
Yes.
Yes.
And just kind of in this era now of my life and being like, wow, this actually really, again, creates that foundation for me to then build whatever it is that I want to build. I was building everything on like sand before, but now not just through this other person having a foundation, but through myself and my emotional health and going to therapy, all these things that I have done religiously now, I'm like, there's a ground now. And so I feel like what I'm building now is stronger and bigger and I mean, this as at this point, this full body of work hasn't come out yet, but I'm already starting to work on the new stuff, and it's very different and it's very, I'll leave that for another thing, but I'm already growing and I'm already evolving because of the boundaries that I've created and because honestly, the respect that I've gained for myself that a lot of queer people do not get to experience because and I sit in that privilege and I identify the privilege of the fact that I have been loved that I have been loved. You know what I mean? In whatever capacity, in relationship capacity, in family capacity, I know how it feels to have somebody choose me publicly, and say, you are the person that I want to be with. Even though I put you through a lot of shit to get there, you are the person that I choose to be with. Yes. And that is a beauty and a gift that so many queer people don't get to experience because of society, because of people who are afraid of being who they are and therefore harming people like me. That's a whole other thing in itself, which is also a lot of what this album is about.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I'm going to tell this story. But I always, every time I think about this, a long time ago, I was in Dallas and I was talking to this guy. And I would just like, anytime I was in Dallas, I would just like go see him. This is years and years and years ago. I was probably 18, 19. And I just remember there was one time we were laying down and we were talking and he was like, I don't know how he actually worded it, but he was like, if you didn't have long hair, I don't think I would talk to you. And I remember being like, what do you mean by that? And he was just like, well, you look very like a girl. You look very beautiful. And he's like, and if you didn't like have that long hair, then, I don't think you would really still look like much of a girl to me. And so, and he was, not out or anything. And so, which was pretty much every man I've ever been with except my current one. And it was just kind of like this, it was like day one, it felt for me.
What was that like to hear that?
It was guttural.
Yeah.
But I didn't even understand how guttural it was yet. But what it did is it spun me for almost 10 years down this journey of hyper feminine presentation, but still within my own boundaries. I'm never going to be a makeup girl. Like, I wasn't going to do all that. But, starting to have more long hair and starting to get my nails done and shave every day, everything. And just being like, I want to be enough because this is the demographic as a feminine energy. The men that I'm going to attract are these cis men who predominantly do not know that sexuality is this beautiful, vast thing that is not just within the construct of, genitalia. And but it just became so difficult, and I just became this vessel and vehicle for them to dream on. You know, because that's the only way I thought I could be loved.
And it sounded like there's this part of you that thought, okay, how do I need to structure my expression into this gaze? And
Yes.
to be accepted and loved, as you're saying.
Yes, and I started neglecting
Yes.
the duality of me, which is also my masculinity. I started neglecting it. And, you know, a lot of people, their story is the opposite way. You know, they want to be hyper masculine, but they're neglecting their femininity. I was completely neglecting my masculinity, just out the door, out the window. But then that started causing a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Because I am not one thing. That is the whole point of me being here, you know? And so once I started figuring out how to nurture him, which was difficult, still is difficult for me. I don't really like him, but you know, you know, to start learning how to balance. And now I really feel like I'm entering this era decently actualized. You know, I don't think I'm my full form at all, but I think that I at least have accepted the yin and the yang, but that was through a lot of trial and error.
Has this creation of this recent album, Tom Girl, or any of your recent creative work helped you explore what that authentic sexual or gender expression looks like for you as of you right now, and not defined by how other people told you it should be?
I think it's a complete, you know, I really, my objective was like, I wanted people to listen to this album and be like, oh, I get it. You know, anybody to be like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it was a lot of me figuring out how do I explain this vastly complex concept in layman's terms, in a simple hook, you know, with the title track, you know, just saying I'm in my head, like over and over again. You know, I'm pulling my hair, pain in your chest. What if this lasts forever? You know, like showing people that queer people, androgynous people, non-binary, whatever you want to give it, that we're going through the exact same experiences. We feel the exact same way. We love deeply, and sometimes we're fighting for our love, you know, and that's such a terrible, terrible existence, you know. And again, going back to the word resentment, it created so much resentment. I had so much resentment for, you know, cis women, even though they're all my best friends and I love them so dearly. There was this, you know, inner frustration in the fact that I can't carry a child and be a mother, to the fact that I want to be what that man sees in me. I want to be it. But my task in this life is to not appease that man, you know, like
to appease this person,
to appease me,
Quentin.
And therefore help her. And that was such a journey and discovery. And I guess I could say that this album helped me discover that in a lot of ways. Yeah.
That is
I know.
beautiful.
I almost got emotional.
I did too.
That one almost got me. Yeah, I almost got there. Oh, man.
You almost got me there.
I know. I was like, whoa, here we go. Okay, but
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Can you walk me through a little bit about the more technical artistry parts of this album? I think a lot of people listening here have never created an album, might not know what goes into producing it. Just any part of it that was a challenge for you, that was interesting for you, that was exciting.
I love talking about this. like more than all the other stuff, because first of all, everything has to start with my producer, Kinder. And he is the love of my life. He is my soulmate. He is my favorite human being on the planet. Like no one, I could do that for 15 minutes. But we've been working with each other for 10 years. It's going to be crazy when the album comes out. It will be almost exactly 10 years. Like exactly meaning almost the exact date.
Special.
Yes, since when we made our first project, an EP together. And so I love him. We've gone through such a journey. He went to LA for 4 years. I went and did my band and all that stuff. And so we came back together last year and just started vomiting art. You know what I mean? just like we were just all this like backed up, like stuff that we really needed to get out together. And he was ending a relationship that was very, very long. And I was ending my relationship. So it was so beautiful that we were both with each other at this time. And he moved in from LA to a house that I found for him, literally like 3 minutes away from my house. And so we just started creating, and we ended up creating a whole As Above, So Below project, which was so amazing, that then transferred into, but we were making this album the entire time. And so many things. Like he is such a nerd and I am a nerd. And, vocal doubling, figuring out the tone of my voice, figuring out, I have a wide range. I can sing very high and I can sing very low. And so it was just kind of like trying to figure out what version of me served the song better. There's some songs where I wanted to, like I Miss New York, where I want to be soft and I want to be light and feminine and, because that's what that song provokes. I really wanted a double, if not triple stacked vocal that feels really thick. So when you're hearing it in your ears, you feel like you're surrounded by me, like I'm almost like a hug or this feeling, and then kind of drowning it out with reverb in the choruses. So you feel like you're falling, it's like all those things are like a language, an audible language that help people without them even realizing it. Lucy in Disguise has this
I love that one.
dry, gritty, distorted vocal, and I wanted that. And it's only doubled in certain places, and I wanted that because I wanted you to just hear it and I wanted it to feel live. And we actually did record that song live with a live band in real time. We only did 3 takes of it, which was crazy. That was like one of the most fun moments I've ever had at Sonic Ranch. And, so it was like every song brought Resentment has this auto-tune EDM almost experience in the bridge. And that was an intention, everything. And Kinder goes down that rabbit hole with me. We will be sending each other, things through Instagram. We will be sitting with each other, watching YouTube videos about the Strokes for 3 hours. You know what I mean? Just consuming and learning how they did it, how Radiohead did it, how, it's fun.
And this is, okay, there's so many, like, I know that you could talk about this for hours, but
Easily.
But just to kind of like note this for people listening, you've mentioned so many important parts about the creation of the album. You've talked about how important the environment is and being at the studio and being at these like sacred places that really pull your creativity out. You've spoken about the intense emotional experience and the personal process that helps to create the content, but also like how it feels. You talk about all of the inspiration. You have mentioned so many artists. To be able to hear other musicians, hear so many that you can pick out what you're inspired by, and then be able to discern this is what I'm inspired by with them. Because I have favorite musicians, but I can't really tell you like what it is that they're doing that I like. I just know how they make me feel for the most part. And so like that's such a critical eye to that. And then this knowledge of all the different tools that you have in your vocal, like your tools as your voice as an instrument, but also your like practical tools like the
Yeah.
tech.
Mm-hmm.
All of that gets layered on top of each other. Plus, I know a lot of other things, timing and like how to get the album out to people and
The business
side.
which is like I was saying before when we started, is sometimes more important than all the other stuff that we're talking about, which is annoying and really frustrating, but the world we live in, you know? Yeah.
And I just want to name that for people. So when people listen to an album, like that's what goes into creation of albums. And so listen to your album, but also any other music that you go out and listen to.
Anybody.
Of like that appreciation for what it takes. And just thank you to all the musicians who do this.
They're
Because
crazy.
We're
crazy. Sorry, I'm a part of this. We're crazy. They're crazy. Yeah, no, me. Hi.
And it adds so much to our lives. Like it is the soundtrack to our lives. It changes our whole lived experience. And that only happens because of this immense commitment that you have and all the other musicians to create something that is meaningful and important that they like.
Yes, 100%.
So on that, I want to step a little bit out of the album and talk a little bit more of other parts of your life. You've been a creative. I'm thinking of an actor, a musician, a lots of different way of creative expression for 20 years. So I've gotten this question before from listeners, and I really like it. How do you think your childhood helped form you as a creative? I know it's a big question, but like for anybody out there, especially people who might be parents with kids, like, are there any ways that you learned firsthand that can nurture your creativity? Or was it nurtured?
My creativity was definitely nurtured.
Yes.
I think my mom immediately saw how vast my imagination was. And I think my mom just let me ride. She let me ride. She really did. Shout out to my mom and my dad. But, my mom was such a, if I wanted to wear the little princess costume, like my mom let me wear the little princess costume. I play with dolls. My mom, would kind of geek out with me on dolls and, my mom was showing me A Star Is Born, Judy Garland, and like I was watching like Turner Classic Movies, and I was and then go to my grandparents' house and was listening to Diana Ross and Donna Summer and the Supremes and Earth, Wind and Fire, and so I
And was anybody showing you that music?
No, it was just scoring everything. It was just around all the time. Tejano music, which I keep telling my friends and stuff that I want to make a Tejano album so bad. Because
and where did you grow up?
I grew up in Corpus Christi, Texas. So Salina Quintanilla, and I grew up in a Hispanic household, and I think a lot of people get lost in that because I'm so racially ambiguous that people are like, could be anything, like I could be Native American, I could be Black, I could be Hispanic, I could be British, like, and so everything was nurtured. And when I was kind of my own momager, where I wanted to start working, I wanted to start doing art. And my mom let me go to her uncle's recording studio, which was called Hacienda Records, which was an incredibly famous studio in Corpus. Huge, beautiful, from the 70s. And I grew up there. Like every summer, my mom would just drop me off almost every day. And I would, wrap CD cases in a little room. That was like my job. And then in return, he would let me, just kind of willy-nilly in the studio. And I must have been, my mom may correct me, but I must have been 8.
Wow.
And I was just like in the studio, just writing songs and then burning them on a CD from the producer, the engineer, and then going to Uncle Roland's office and letting him listen to it, and then him being like, you need to work on the hook. The verse isn't, I don't know about the verse. Like, okay, so you're talking about love in this part, but then you're talking about a dog in this part. Why? You know, like he talked to me like today, like, you know, and I loved it. And I'm a Capricorn, you know, so I'm going to go work. I'm going to go figure it out. And I would. And it was so, and then almost like I think that following, like I did that maybe 2 years, 8, 9, maybe 10. And then I started doing professional theater. I got into my first big show.
Yes.
And then did that for 10 years and then started when I was 14, 13 doing competitive dance, you know, and then was trained operatically in the meantime of all of that. So, and it was my mom. It was my mom.
Thank you, Quentin's mom.
Yeah, that she was just
What's
like,
her name?
Sylvia.
Sylvia. Thank you, Sylvia.
Our queen. Yes, I love my mom. And like, you know, and my father too. Like my father, you know, was there and nurtured a lot of it as well. But my, you know, honestly, to be honest, my grandfather was my biggest champion. Uh, and he actually died the tech week of my first actual show that I was actually in. He got to see this like tour thing that I did, which was technically my first show. Thank God he got to see that.
When I listening to what you're saying, and I know a little bit about your backstory that we didn't talk about. So a lot of the themes that I'm hearing is exposing you to creatives. And, you know, it's okay if you don't know anyone with the studio of listeners, getting kids who seem excited about this stuff around other people doing it, adults doing it, getting you into things that excited you, that allowed you to develop your dancing, your acting, the whole spectrum, your singing.
I also did sports.
Amazing.
Which I didn't want to.
Yeah.
But I did.
Okay.
And I'm also grateful that I did that.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like letting your kid explore. That's what being a kid is. And not limiting their imagination, you know, and not diminishing it. And I think also a big word that I think my mom did a great job at is protection. My mom protected me. She really did. She did such a great job with.
In what way?
In so many ways. And, you know, some of it was fear-based. Some of it was from her own limited thinking, you know, and I don't penalize my mother for that at all. You know, she did what she thought was best. But, you know, the first show that I auditioned for, I remember my mom being like, you know, really preparing me for rejection. You know, like really getting me ready, you know, to be like, honey, there are thousands of kids here. And if this does not work, it is okay. You know, and I wanted it so bad. And my mom saw it in me, you know, and so she was like, man, if this kid gets let down, I don't know what we're going to do. You know what I mean? Like she was just so, and also, you know, theater and all that stuff was stuff that white people did. That's what you know, that's their mentality. That's what white people do. White people go and do that. You don't do that. But she didn't limit me in that way.
Powerful.
She leaped into fear with me, you know, and allowed her child to potentially be rejected in a very public way in front of thousands of people, like hundreds of people. You know what I mean? Like, because they were doing the call list like publicly. And so she was like, you know, and I always say I was the last.
And did you get
name? Yes. I was the last name they called.
Wow.
And that I will never forget that. That will never be forgotten. And I did it and it was so much fun.
I think that what you just said is so beautiful about your mom, Sylvia, about like she did have fear around this and she was willing to do it anyway.
Yes. And that's what I think she instilled in me. You know, my mother was also the you know, the kind of the first person that you would call if something bad happened. Also my dad, because, you know, my dad was a police officer, which is also a very complicated, you know, narrative for me. But you know, they both were just, they were like, go do it, go figure it out. Good luck. You know, and my mom did concession for all of my shows. would be there, with my Tylenol or my Advil because I would get migraines probably like after, like towards the end of Act 1, and my coconut water. And, like she was just, and still to this day when I did ACL, my mom was there making sure that I ate, like my mom is just, yeah, she's was such a nurturer. And even to this day, like me doing ACL and her allowing me, like being afraid and being like, oh my God, you're doing this really intense thing. Um, yeah, it's been fun to share these moments with her because now it's almost like kind of reverse where I'm taking her into the fear with me versus when she used to take me into the fear with her. And now she's seeing me, do the national anthem in front of 30,000 people, and she's like, this is scary. How are you doing this? And I'm like, cause you taught me to. I was like, cause of you,
Yeah.
And so anyway, yeah,
You're nurtured by her.
100%.
Yeah. And that's something
Yeah.
I've learned as I talk to creatives is very creatively talented people. It doesn't just happen out of nowhere.
No.
They're nurturing themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but someone's also nurturing them.
Takes an army.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's another reason. It's part of why I do this project is because creativity is so valuable. All these creative things, all this art is so valuable, and it takes an army, meaning that all of us, the listeners, the people attending these shows, like we are all a part of this and need to be supporting because that's what it takes to keep going.
100%.
So we need to wrap up in a few minutes, but I do have I have a few things I want to touch on just briefly because they're cool topics. Is you have such a clear aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
And something you told me when we talked before is that, I've the way I look and the way I present is very important to me, and it's very important to the art. And I've been on a budget and I didn't have money for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people are in that position.
No money.
And financially unstable in a lot of ways. And so
100%.
Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yes. It is when you really make that decision to jump, you are letting go of everything, every type of stability that you can think of. But the biggest one is financial stability. And it is very difficult and very, very hard. And I think it's always a product of if you have any sort of support, anything, any sort of support system, or even if you do not, you have to fight to make your art first, whatever that means for you. And I am so blessed. I'm so protected. I'm, even in my zero budget, I've never fully worried about where a meal was going to come, but I've been close. And it's so important to show the universe that you're not afraid, of losing the reality completely, just dismantling around you, and now I'm getting into a place where I am becoming a lot more financially stable, but I had to jump.
Mm-hmm. And you were in that for a long time.
Of an incredibly long time.
A very long time.
My 20s.
Yeah, for a decade.
Yeah, for a decade.
Yes. Yeah. How did you keep choosing your art and keep choosing to create?
Because I have no other choice.
Why?
I don't know.
It's just who you are?
It's just who I am. I remember I was having a really rough day. And I had to go drive from Corpus with my mom to do the national anthem for the first time for the Austin FC in front of 30,000 people, which I've done 4 times now, but it was the first time. And so my mom came with me. It was this whole thing. But I was going through a lot of stuff with my ex at the time, and it was just very difficult. And my mom was like, "You don't have to do this. You don't have to go. You don't have to." And I just remember being like, "Mom, I'm too far in this.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone too far. If I stopped right now, what would I like? What would satisfy me? What would like, fill me, like, what would I turn to go do? Like, I guess there's a lot of answers to that. I could be a music teacher. I could be a theater teacher. I could start directing shows again, doing more choreography. But I have to nurture this instinct in me. And I think people have to nurture that intuition that's in them that's saying, no, go do it. And not be afraid of absolutely everything falling out from under you.
Or be afraid and do it anyway.
Or
as your
be
mom taught
afraid
you.
and do it anyway, which is what I do. Like I am terrified. I am not without fear. I think people think that I'm a very confident person. I've just started to identify myself as that, but I was faking it until I made it. And now I'm starting to feel authentically confident. But oh my God, I feel like I've maybe been confident for about 6 months, like, and so it's, you don't have to have everything. You don't have to know everything. It's the way you present yourself. It's the way you carry yourself. And I always recommend to do it with grace, to do it with respect, and, don't be messy.
Something that I think you did really, really well that you've told me about through that period is you took advantage of every opportunity that you had.
Everything.
You applied to grants and you were relentless about following up and getting them. Still am. When you got opportunities, got an opportunity to perform at ACL and didn't have a band, and so you formed one.
2018.
Yep. And like days before you're about to go on stage.
A week. Yeah, we had a week.
A lot of people would say, oh, I'm not ready for this. It's not going to be good enough. You keep going, and then you develop relationships. Can you just speak a little bit about the importance of building that network and like being fierce with that?
It is absolutely everything. You have to go to that stupid party. You have to. Even though you're tired, even though you don't want to, even though you just feel like absolute shit, you have to. If this is what you want, and the network, the opportunities, the conversations that you have to have are hourly, daily, they have not stopped. And I was saying before, I feel like that's something that I am good at. Like, I'm good at just being relentless. And I've learned from the greats. I've learned from Tina. I've learned from Lady Gaga, that said, no, keep calling until they say yes. And if they say no again, then call again. And then if they say no again, find out who's higher than them. And then get them to say yes. And that's it.
And has it worked? Has doing this worked for you?
Yes. Yes. And, and still does. And, getting to be a part of the Recording Academy now, that took me 5 years to build those connections, build those relationships enough to where when it was time to submit, it immediately went through, and that matters. Like, learn how to play this game.
You are playing both the long game and the short game.
At the same time.
You are thinking about, what do I want next week and next month, and what opportunity, and also like, what are the big goals? Yeah, that's a very amazing, challenging thing to do.
You have to juggle all of it, and it's so important.
And to have enough belief in yourself, or just desire to do this, that you're able to even dream big enough of like, this is what I want in 10 years, so I start now.
100%. Like, yes. And I can't stress this enough. Like, we live in a culture that, wants to kind of rage against the machine. And I love that. I love raging against the machine. Like, I'm not losing my soul or my rebellion in this journey. I love playing the game, knowing that I am going to dismantle every chance I have, but you got to play the game first. You've got to do it. That's why we're here on this earth. We can avoid it. We can say, no, I'm going to be independent, do it. But there's still a game. Whichever direction you want to turn, you're going to have to play a game. And you have to start respecting the machine and the art and how it has been curated for now 100 years, and you have to respect it. And also you have to um, uh, really research and know your ancestors, know the ones before you that have done it, for all the way from, oh, it even makes me emotional thinking about Nina Simone, like Nina Simone to Tina, to Michael, to Beyonce, to Radiohead, to Phoebe Bridgers, to Boy Genius, like you have to know, you have to have the biggest arsenal. You have to, as a queer person, as a woman, you have to be the smartest person in the room. You have to be like, no, I don't like that light. And you need to realize how to learn how to say it graciously and lovingly, but also authoritatively. And it is so important to make sure that you walk into a room, and because the first thing they're going to think like is, how can I utilize this person? Can I fuck this person? And can I fuck over this person? And you have to be in charge of that.
So this is amazing guidance. What if someone's listening to this and say, okay, but what if I'm not sure my art is good enough yet?
Then stay in that kitchen. Then you don't need to get out yet. Don't go until you know what you're saying, because I do not fight this hard and not believe in the thing behind you, just keep cooking and keep learning.
And that's part of playing the game too, of understanding
100%.
what stage of the game am I in?
Yeah.
And then playing to your strengths with it of
and
like,
what do I want?
and what do I want?
What do I want to say?
Wow.
Like, if it happened tomorrow, what would I do? Like,
great question.
Like, and that's important. It's like, again, I just can't stress enough. Last night, as I was braiding my hair, I'm watching, Beyonce's Life is But a Dream documentary. I'm watching a 3-hour documentary on Judy Garland and her story and who she was, Barbara Streisand, like learning about Eliza Minnelli, just learning about the greats, James Brown, Tutti Frutti, Lil Richie, like learning about Black culture, learning about how we've done this whole thing, and so many, not just Black culture, all cultures. Carole King, I study Carole King like a Bible, Tapestry, Stevie Nicks, Fleetwood Mac, you have to you have to be able to pull it out. Elliott Smith.
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to just...
You learn so much from those people
Mhm.
and from their experiences, and also having reverence for those
Yeah.
who came before you. There's this women's studies class I love called Poems and Power, and I took a Nina Simone class with her, the teacher, and it's not just musicians, it's writers, it's artists, but it's women told from so many women's stories are diminished and not accurately told and made to seem like they were less powerful and their art was less powerful. And anyway, I love it. 2 final questions I want to ask you. What do you offer Austin, Texas?
Wow. Oh, what do I offer Austin, Texas? Ooh, the first word that came to my head is honesty.
Love.
Honesty.
Yeah.
And realness. I'm, like I took the wigs off, took the makeup off. In this era, I was just like, I want to show you the the actual spiritualness of androgyny and duality. I think because of so much pain, we've gone into such a performance, which I love. Don't get it twisted. I love my girls, but I also want to show that other side, that polarity, that other side of the spectrum, of showing that we are some of the most powerful beings on the planet because of our androgyny, because of the fact that we are both mother and father. Like that is the most powerful gift. And just like you were saying with Nina Simone, it has been diminished because of the fear of it. It must be contained. And I feel to show Austin such an, when I got the Chronicle cover, it was so important and adamant to me that it was my natural hair and a fro, no makeup, no shirt, because I just wanted to show people this is what you're afraid of. Would you maybe want to reevaluate that?
Yes.
Or are you going to find another reason to not like me now or is it now because I'm Black? Because now we need, I guess we have to find something new to not like, And so to me, it's just so important in a city like this that is getting so different and the tech and the gentrification and all of that, to still show this groundedness in this earth and remember that we're on very sacred land. We're on land that used to be underwater, the volcanoes, like we could go deep. This place is really sacred and, bringing it kind of back to that.
The final question is, what does Austin, Texas offer you?
Community. It's true. I mean, I just talked to a photographer the other day in LA, and person I know, good friend, from a while ago, and he was like, "Oh, for everything it'll be about 2,000 for a photo shoot." Which, hey, I want art to be paid for respectfully. I want people to respect their art, but there's such a community. I could call my friend Marshall right now and just be like, "Hey, can we go do a shoot?" And he'd just go do it. And for some food, because it's so synergetic, we understand the relationship of when he called me last night to go do his show, I'm there. No questions asked, no payment needed.
There's a mutual support.
There's this mutual support that comes when you're doing something, not always just as a survival, but also for the art. And I think there's a balance between the both. I think you should be getting paid what you need to get paid. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's such a community here in Austin where, yes, sometimes it is for the money, but also sometimes it's just because we love each other and we're artistic and we want to, and I think people also, respect me.
Yeah.
That if I'm asking them to do something, that it's not just going to be a dead end,
yes.
And so again, it goes back to you knowing what you bring to the table and your power. And if there's anything that I want people to take away from this is that really find yourself, which is a lifelong journey, but really find what you bring that no one else can bring. And people can say potentially many things about me, but one thing is when I'm in your life and when I exit your life, if I exit your life, you are plentiful in your resources and your possibilities. And that's what I love to bring to people. I love to just bring everybody in on the experience and the journey, as many people as I can. And so you have to do that for others, and you have to know what you bring so that people don't take it. Because people will be like, "Oh, there's this expensive watch." They're just going to take it. And you have to put it on your wrist and know that that's yours. And you can't take that off of me.
Oh, thank you so much for this and
This was fun.
This was so fun. Thank you so much for coming.
this.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for all of this knowledge and wisdom and sharing your story.
Anytime.
This was great. For those listening, make sure you follow the Artist Rendezvous on Instagram, on TikTok, on all social media. Follow for the podcast or subscribe on YouTube. It helps a lot. Send this episode. It's the best way to support this podcast and support the creatives that are on this. Comment, let us know. What did you think of this? What's something you took from this? We'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing here. We appreciate you.